Hi, guys, and welcome to lesson number 1. That was technically due last week. However, I am allowing students to turn in their work this second week, or I should say the second full week of eSchool, at your own pace in case things weren't very clear at the first time around. But let me go ahead and show you guys and log you guys in to Pixlr.com, which is how you are going to be doing your eSchool art lessons here for the foreseeable future. So let's go ahead and let's open a new tab and let's go to Pixlr, Pixlr.com. Now, when you get into Pixlr, Pixlr is a website that is basically a Photoshop editing online website. It doesn't require you to have any kind of application downloaded to your computer. It does everything through the internet, which is really awesome and great. It's also free, which will be very useful, obviously, for getting us logged in. Now, I recommend that you go ahead and you create your own account. Now, you'll click here. It'll ask you to sign up and create an account. You will put in your personal email or your school email to get yourself an account, and you will get an email from your Outlook app if you're using your school email to verify your account. Once you're in, you are good to go, and Pixlr.com will save all of your images and stuff that you need to take or edit or change automatically, so you won't have to worry about backing anything up. It's kind of like Google Drive a little bit, where all your files are there and available at any time via the internet from any device you use. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is that there are two different versions of Pixlr. There's Pixlr X and Pixlr E. Pixlr X stands for Pixlr Express, and that's really great for editing photos really quickly, and it gives you options to apply things like Instagram like filters where it just changes the color. What we're going to be using though is called Pixlr E for Pixlr Editor. Now this is essentially a much more diverse, more intricate version of being able to edit an image, kind of like a simple version of Adobe Photoshop if you're familiar with that. But I'm going to go ahead, after I've created an account, as you can see I already have under my name, I'm going to go ahead and open up Pixlr E. Now, when you create Pixlr E, there should not be anything here yet if this is your first time getting into it, but I've already done a couple of different Photoshop lessons. What we are going to be doing is, for the first lesson, lesson number 1, that you are going to be taking an image and you're going to turn it black and white with only one part of the object staying in color. But let me walk you through how to open that image. Now, if you go to your Google Classroom, there are some stock images here for lesson number 1 that you guys can use. So if I go in here to 606, if that's your section, all of the sections are going to look the same. You click here on art lesson number 1, or look at your classwork. You'll see that I have included some images that you guys can use for lesson number 1. I'm going to go ahead and choose the picture here of the dog with a Frisbee. Now, this is just an image in Google Classroom that you can go ahead and save to your computer, which is going to be needed for you to upload it into Pixlr E, or Pixlr.com. So I'm going to open that image here in Google Classroom, or any image that you want to use, so long as it is a photograph and not, say, a cartoon or illustration. When you have this image opened, you're going to right-click it. You're going to save image as, and save it to your computer underneath your pictures folder. Now, you can name it whatever it is you want at this point, but we'll talk about naming files here later. But I'm going to go ahead and save this and download it automatically to my computer. If you want to use your own photograph, let me walk you through how that's going to look. So when you open up Google, go ahead and just type in whatever image you're looking for. So just to keep things consistent, I'm going to look up dog with a Frisbee. Now, when that opens up, make sure you click here on images So you're only seeing photograph options. And the other thing you want to make sure is you come over here to tools. When you click on tools in a Google search, it gives you a few more options where you're going to be able to choose a more specific picture. The most important thing that we need to do right now is make sure that you're always using a high quality image. And you're going to do that by clicking on size and clicking on large. That makes sure that the pixels or the amount of pixels in this picture are going to be high enough quality for you to use. So if I click on a picture like this, you'll notice that it gives you the pixel count. Well, right here down in the bottom of the image. So that's saying that this image is 1,600 pixels long and 848 pixels tall. Those are the very tiny, tiny little boxes that end up making the entire picture visible. You'll be able to see that a little more when we open this in Pixlr, but just make sure you always go to large and make sure you're picking a large format image if it's not a photograph you've taken yourself. So I'm going to right click that like I did earlier in Google Classroom. I'm going to save image as. I'm going to save it to my pictures as it should do automatically. And now we're ready to open those pictures up in Pixlr E. So I'm going to go back to Pixlr.com. This is your workspace where it shows all the files, kind of like Google Classroom. But I'm going to go to Open Image. When I click on that, that gives you the option to pick any kind of file from anywhere in your classroom that you or anywhere on your computer you should want to and upload it. So I'm going to go pick the one that I just found there on Google, finding a large image. I'm going to open it and it will go ahead and automatically open you up in this workspace. Now, this photograph, for lesson number 1, what we are going to be trying to do is turn this entire photograph black and white. But I'm going to try and keep the Frisbee red. So the image is going to be entirely black and white, but this will still stay red. Now, the first thing you should understand is that in order to edit a photo, you're going to be, or let's say if I wanted to turn this picture black and white, I could turn the entire thing black and white very simply by coming up here to adjustments. Adjustments are how you apply, say, like a filter, like you would in Instagram or something like that. When I click on adjustment, it gives you lots of options, but the one that we're going to need to use to turn this photo black and white is what's called hue and saturation. When I click that, and you can always move these windows out of the way, is I'm going to adjust this tab under saturation to black and white, or all the way to the left to turn this image black and white. So when I drag this all the way to the left, the whole photograph is now black and white. Now, that's not exactly what we're trying to do with this lesson, though. We want to be able to keep one part, which is going to be the Frisbee, red, while the rest of the image is black and white. I'm going to hit cancel. Actually, I'm going to hit apply so I can show you one thing that's really useful about Pixlr. Now, I can make any kind of adjustment or any kind of edit to this image, but I can always go back in my history or undo things very easily. You can do that by coming up here to edit and undo for one direct change you make to an image like I did, making this black and white. I'm going to redo that. But the other more useful tool is over here in the history. History is like a way that you can go back and forth through an image at any point that you are editing it. So if I were to say draw some stuff into this picture, as I'm using here the paintbrush, notice how it shows up as lots of different things that I've done directly. So if I click up here, it will go back 2 clicks. If I come back here, it will go back to the original green paint picture or click that I did. And if I come all the way back here to open image, it will take me back to originally how the photograph was opened up. So just know that the history is very useful for basically going back in time at any point that you want. Now, back to our original problem. When I applied this black and white filter to this image here in adjustments by clicking on hue and saturation, it applied it to the entire photograph. But for this lesson, what you want to do is keep this Frisbee red. So how do we only pick that part? Well, you have got a couple of options. You've got a couple of tools that select individual pixels of a picture. Now, there's this tool called the Marquee Select that basically lets you pick a part of the picture in a square or rectangle that you choose. When I select that and I apply the adjustment like I did earlier, what's going to happen is it's only going to affect the pixels that I have selected. So you notice that now only this rectangle that I applied, is black and white. And it's picking those individual pixels, where a pixel here is different than a pixel there. Might be a little easier for me to zoom in over here and show you. So notice that I'll grab this hand tool to move my way around the photo, that a pixel here is different than this. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where you need to make sure you are choosing a high quality image. You want to make sure there's enough pixels in this picture. But as I was saying before, this obviously does turn part of the picture black and white, but that's not, again, what we're trying to do. I'm going to go over to history and undo by going up here to when I originally opened the picture. And I'm going to try one of these other selection tools. The Marquee, while that's useful in some situations, it really is not going to be that useful because a lot of things in a picture are not going to be perfectly rectangular. So another option is using this tool called the Lasso tool, or the Lasso Select. This allows me to draw something that I want to choose, or something that I want to pick. Again, I'm going to zoom in using scroll. I'm going to use this little guy right here to move my way around the picture. I can also zoom in here by going left and right in what's called the navigation window. So the lasso tool, as I was talking about, what I can do here is I can try and pick and draw the Frisbee that I'm trying to select, because I want to make sure that this picture is black and white with the exception of the Frisbee. Now, this isn't really working out so well, as you can see. My lines are a little bumpy. I'm not doing this perfectly. That does do a good job of, it does a decent job of selecting. And as I do before, I can go ahead and adjust this picture now and turn it black and white and apply it. But again, that's not really all that great. I could have done a much better drawing that around. You can see there's little red bits showing up here and there. So what I should really use is this final tool called the wand tool, the wand select. This is going to basically read the pixels automatically and choose the things that Pixlr.com is thinking that you are trying to choose based off the contrast of how different one pixel is to another. Now, I tried picking this with my lasso, but I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to go ahead and select the wand tool. Now, I can zoom in here, move myself around. And what's going to happen with this wand tool is I'm going to go ahead and click somewhere where it's generally all the same color, say like the edge of the Frisbee here. When I click it, it's going to choose pixels that are very similar to what I clicked on. So you can see that it picked a lot of these bright white or lighter valued pixels that are red, but it didn't pick up on some of the areas here that are white, like the reflection or the darker shadow parts. Now, to include more parts of this picture, I've got two options. I can hold down the Shift key and click on, say, a darker area or a lighter area. I can click it while holding down Shift. That's the key here. And it will start to include parts of this picture, or pixels that I didn't originally have selected. Now you notice it's not doing things all that well. It's still creating a couple islands from here and there that are not getting picked up. Now I can come in here, continue to hold down Shift, and pick up the rest of these pixels by themselves. Pixels. Or what I could do And I'm going to go back to my history to undo what I did already. And what I can do is adjust the wand tool that I was using. The way that you make the wand tool more sensitive, or I should say pick up more pixels, is by adjusting in the wand tool what's called the tolerance. The tolerance is basically how picky this wand tool is going to be. So if I increase the tolerance, say to around 50 or 60, and I click again in this image, it's going to pick up more pixels than I originally did. So if I hold down Shift again and try and add to the selection, it's going to be a little less picky about how I pick up these pixels to include in this image. Looks like I picked up too many here. So what I'm going to do is go back to my history and undo that. And I'm going to go ahead and continue to pick up on here on the Frisbee. Now my tolerance is set a little too high because it's starting to pick up things that I definitely don't want with the dog mouth and nose. So I'm going to decrease my tolerance and try again, holding down Shift to include parts of this image. Now that looks pretty good in my opinion. I have got pretty much all parts of the Frisbee now at this point that I want to turn, or keep, I should say, red while I turn the rest of the photo black and white. And the rest of it is looking pretty good. I'll undo that last click I did. Don't know if that last little bit is going to be all that important to make this image look good. So I have now got this Frisbee selected, and I'm going to try and turn the rest of the image black and white. Now, the problem that I showed you guys earlier is that when I have something selected and I apply a filter adjustment, like hue and saturation that I talked about, if I have that one area selected and I turn it all the way to the left, it's only going to make the picture black, or the Frisbee black and white. It's not going to make the rest of the image. So what I really should have done is gone and selected the entire photograph. I should have selected the background, selected the dog, his collar, all of this, and it would have applied this filter, this black and white adjustment filter, to just that particular part. But that would take a long time. The reason why I selected the photo is there's a really easy way to pick everything that is opposite of this Frisbee. So I'm going to go back in here in my history, undo this. You can see I've still got the Frisbee selected. And I'm going to come up here to where it says select. This is your option for being able to adjust the things that you have selected in an image besides using these three tools like the marquee, the wand, or the lasso. But when I come up here to select, what I can do to this photograph is I can do what's called an invert selection. That will essentially pick everything in the image that I haven't already selected. So when I click this, there's now a dotted line around the entire photograph and still one around the Frisbee. Now, sometimes it can be a little difficult to understand what's selected and what's not, but because I had the Frisbee selected and I went here to invert selection, what happened was essentially it picked everything except the Frisbee. The Frisbee is now on its own little island that has not been picked up for the image. So now, if I were to apply that saturation filter here in adjustments to this image, it would have turned everything black and white except for what's not selected, i.e. the Frisbee. So let me go and apply that. I'll come down here to hue and saturation. I'll drag it all the way to the left. And now we've gotten exactly what we're trying to look for with this photograph in this lesson. I've turned the entire image black and white and kept one part of it in color. Now, before we start talking about turning it in, there's something you should understand about the select tab here. While we used it to invert the selection when we picked up the Frisbee and tried to then pick everything except it, if you click deselect, that will get rid of all your selection options or things that you've selected in your photograph. And now this picture is looking spot on for what we need to turn in to Google Classroom. So how do you turn this in? Well, first thing I need to do is save this image, and that's by going up here to File, coming down here to Save, and you've got a couple options of how to edit this photo the way that you want to save it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click, triple click actually, delete all that, type in my last name, a dash or a space, whatever you like, and I'm going to call this lesson 1. That way, oops, it's easy for me to understand what files I'm turning in later on into Google Classroom. I'm going to keep all of my images as what's called a JPEG. There are different files like a PNG, a web, and a PXT, but we're going to keep everything as a JPEG. So you shouldn't have to change anything from there. Also, keep your quality as high. This is basically telling Pixlr.com how many pixels you want to keep in the photograph. So if I keep it fairly high, and even if I increase it to 100%, it will give us the best quality image. As you can see here, the image width, which was originally 1,600, and I'm going to keep it that way, as well as the height. If you start to decrease it, you'll notice that the pixels start, well, they should be changing there. But basically, it's saying that it's showing a lower quality. But let's keep it at a high. 90 or 100% is perfect. And then just go ahead and click download. It will save to your web browser. I'm using Chrome, but some web browsers might be different. But the one thing that you should understand is that it's automatically saving everything to your computer here in your folder files. So if I were to click that and go up to downloads, you'll see that this lesson that I just saved right here is automatically here in my computer. So how do we get this turned into Google Classroom? Well, let's go back to Google Classroom. I hit escape to make that picture go away from what the original assignment I was looking at earlier. And you'll notice that in the links, or I should say the files that I added to your Google Classroom to turn things in, the very bottom is a document that says Art Lesson 1 Turn In Doc. Now, it won't show anything here because I've already edited this particular Google Classroom of how to turn a picture in. But let's go ahead and open this up. Make sure it's this Art Lesson 1 Turn In document that you open. It will open a blank document that looks like this, minus the picture, now that I quickly try to delete it. It will go and open this document, and it will give you the instruction for how to turn this picture in. Essentially, what you need to do, as it says here, is insert this image right here. So I want to make sure my mouse cursor is clicked somewhere low in the image, not somewhere up high. I'm going to hit insert. I'm going to go to image. I'm going to upload from computer. And from there, you want to make sure you go to your downloads folder that's in your laptop. Everything from Pixlr.com is going to automatically be saved to downloads. I'm going to find lesson number 1 that I just wanted to save. I'm going to open it. And the image that was here in Pixlr is now here in the Google Doc. The last thing you're going to want to do is make sure you turn this document in. There is a button right here on your screen that will say turn in that I don't have because I'm the administrator or the person in charge of this Google Classroom, but you should see a little gray white button right here that says turn in. Once you do that, you are good to go for art lesson number 1 here for eSchool. Now, if you guys have any questions of how to get this lesson made up or done, just give me a Teams call or give me an email and let me know if you need help. I can always Teams chat you or video call you one-on-one, and I can also even take control of your computer where my mouse shows up, and I can help you out with these lessons. But I'm hoping that this will be a pretty good, useful video for you guys to get lesson number 1 made up if you didn't get a chance to do it last week or you're confused. I know I had a lot of issues understanding how to get everything working here in Google Classroom and getting eSchool started up for art. myself, but I'm hoping that this will give you guys a chance to get this made up if that is the case. So if you have any questions, give me a chat, give me a shout out, give me an email, let me know what you guys need, and I will be available anytime this next week. I guess eSchool week number 3. But like I said, I will be available to help you guys out at any time possible. Thank you guys for watching, and let me know if you have any questions moving forward.